Welcome back to another episode. Today is going to be a little bit different. Today, I am extremely excited because we're starting our first movie series review the full way through. I know we did Rocky 1, and I intend to get around to Rocky 2, Rocky 3, Rocky 4, and Rocky 5 eventually, but as it stands right now, this is our first film series. And we're going to be starting at Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, I think this series has been a big part of a lot of our childhoods. I used to have them on DVD in the 2010s, and I think my first time watching it was 2014, and it's a classic. Compared to the rest, I know Freddy gets the whole, oh, he's kind of a funny, kind of jokey character. He's not very, joking around in the first one, in this one, because he's very, the lighting's dark, they don't ever put him in the light and stuff, and let's do a little bit of backstory. So, the movie was directed by Wes Craven, who is one of the best horror directors. He made Hills Have Eyes, Scream, and had some parts to do with the first, 1 and 3 in the Nightmare franchise. And rest in peace, Wes. I mean, this is such a great idea for a horror film. Like, if you think about it, by 1984, when this movie came out, the horror slasher genre was like guys with a mask that kill, Jason or Michael. So to have this character that talks, invades your dreams and kills you, and if you die in dreams, you die in real life. It's such an interesting concept, and he really he hit this one out of the park. Of course, Freddy Krueger is played by Robert Englund, who's a big part of this franchise success. Because, again, I've said this. I know a lot of people want a new Nightmare movie. I just don't think it can happen. As much as it'd be kind of an interesting thing to see a new one in theaters, I cannot see anybody in the Freddy makeup besides Robert. I think it's best, you let the character rest, go rest. He ran his course. Freddy's one of the top 3 horror icons of all time, if you ask me. And it's time for him to be a memory. It's all of us just to watch back on all the movies besides the remake. I know Freddy's Dead is bad, but the remake is worse. But no matter if they bring it back or not, there's enough here to leave a legacy for Freddy. And thank you, Robert, for playing this icon of my childhood who I grew up on, and many people did too. This icon that was on our TVs on the horror marathons in October for Halloween and all that. And one last credit to acting. Heather Langenkamp plays Nancy, and she's really good. She's a big part of this movie's success too. She's my favorite final girl, the best. I know a lot of people like Laurie Strode, but I'd say Nancy is the way she fights back against Freddy, all the traps at the end of this movie, and the booby traps and Johnny Depp was also, and I think this was one of his first acting roles. I think he was 20 when this movie came out. So, we've talked about the actors enough. Let's get into the movie. So, the movie notoriously does a fake switch, where you think it's gonna follow the girl Tina. It's gonna follow her she's a protagonist. Kind of like Psycho. It breaks your expectations whenever. I don't know the exact timestamp, but 20 minutes into the movie, she's killed by Freddy in one of the best kills. I think in real life they used a rotating room to make it happen by pulling the ropes in the room and rotating and stuff. But Freddy drags her on the ceiling, cuts her chest. It's one of the more iconic scenes. It's one of the most iconic scenes besides the Johnny Depp bed geyser, the blood geyser. But that's later on in the movie. And then after Tina's death, it's revealed that Nancy is the protagonist. And we get exposition from the mother, Nancy's mother. It's we burned him alive because she still had Freddy's glove. I don't remember if it was revealed in this movie or the next one that Freddy's glove was still in the basement, but. So Nancy, she pulls apart of Freddy's fabric out during a dream. So she gets the idea you can bring stuff through the dream. Well, anyways, Glenn is supposed to be the one like be there, but he falls asleep, and we'll talk about his death in a minute. But so Glenn dies because he falls asleep in his bed, and then he like sucks into this hole in his bed. They like all it comes out is a blood geyser and stuff. This is another practical effect, no CGI, amazing. I just love these little practical effects, I really do. It's just so much more heart. But Nancy, she gets the idea to pull something back out into the real world, and knowing that Freddy's a lot more like, because I know I probably skipped over, but there's the bathtub scene, which is another one of the iconic scenes where she's taking a bath and he reaches up and tries to drown her, but she survives, and Freddy tries to drown her and she survives, but she pulls Freddy into the real world where his power is less, sets up like sets up like a sledgehammer to hit him, and lights him on fire, and then at the end she beats him by turning her back on him. You know, I'm not scared of you, I know who you are. And then he turns minuscule. And now there's also an optional post-credit scene where it's her mother getting dragged to the window. Her mother gets burned alive because Freddy, when he's on fire, runs up there, but kills her mother, or invades her dream and kills her. But at the end, they did do this fake out ending where all the people that died, Rod, Tina, Glenn, and they like come back alive, and them and Nancy, they drive down the road, and then while like Nancy's mother's waving, Freddy comes through the window and pulls her back. Now I've heard that that's not what Wes Craven wanted. He did not want that ending at all, but the studio executives at New Line wanted him to because, you know, set up for a sequel. So, and we will cover that sequel tomorrow, which is very tone-wise different from this movie. Now, how does this movie rank? On a level, it's number 2 for me in the series. It like goes back and forth between 1 and 2 because I love this movie and Dream Warriors a lot. You know, I love everything about Dream Warriors, and if there's any movie I'd say you watch if you want, like, because the thing with Dream Warriors is, this is gonna, like, I know it's a lot of topic. Dream Warriors is it's got like some comedy aspects. Freddy says some one-liners, but it's still scary. Like, has horror to it. Once you get to Dream Master, the 4th one, and then you get to Dream Child, especially, it becomes like it goes off the rail. Dream Master is still a good movie, I think, but then after that, just the comedy takes it over, and it's just it's terrible. And that's why I think 5 and Freddy's Dead are some of the worst pieces of horror, especially Freddy's Dead. But then even like Dream Child, it's abysmal too. Then you get a really great movie in New Nightmare, and then Freddy vs. Jason is kind of a fun, campy. It's a crossover movie. It's fun, and then you get the Nightmare remake, which is terrible. Well, when I said earlier that nobody else besides Robert Englund can play Freddy Krueger, I kind of believe that. Because Jackie Earle Haley, I don't think he's a bad actor, but he just did not play a good Freddy. And the movie is just forgettable characters, and that's the last thing I'll say. The reason why Nightmare on Elm Street 1984 lives on like it does, not only because Robert Englund's acting, but the characters. Like I said earlier, Heather Langenkamp as Nancy, she does really good. And then even the actors and actresses for her friends, they do a good job. The characters are likable and memorable. I remember their names, and that's good. I don't even think I can remember one person's name besides, I think, in the remake they use Nancy's name for the main character, except different last name for some reason. It's just weird. But for this movie being a classic, and I'm gonna have to give it a 10 out of 10. Thank you, Wes Craven. You are gone but not forgotten. Rest in peace. And thank you for giving us this classic and all the other classics. You truly were a really great person and a great director. I'll see you guys in the next episode where we watch A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. Love you guys. Stay blessed. Everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Now, this one, I'm going to say this, it's like top 5 of the franchise. some people love this movie more. This is some people's favorite, and I will admit, Robert Englund does amazing. He's amazing in every movie as Freddy, but just the darker personality and like the less like he's a lot more scarier in this film. His design's a little bit different too. Than like the finger knives are inside his skin instead of being on a glove, but it kind of gets overlooked though because it was put in the middle of the first movie, which is a classic. I think almost everybody loves, and then the third movie, Dream Warriors, which is arguably the best movie in the franchise, or at least the best sequel to the first. So, and it's some people forget about it. Some people think it's not even canon to the story. Like canonical wise, you really, since there's no like references to it in the third movie, you really could just say it doesn't exist in the same universe as 1 through 6. But we'll say it does. I'm a big fan of Jesse's actor. I know this movie has become a pretty big hit for the LGBTQ community because there's a lot of like homoerotic stuff in the movie. For 1985, there's a lot of it. And obviously this movie was not directed by Wes Craven. I don't know if he just didn't, I think he might have been filming something else at the time, whenever they won this, and also I don't think he was too happy about that. The final scene in the first movie, where Nancy's mom is pulled through the glass, like, window. So, and there are some great scenes in this movie. I know Wes wouldn't come out to direct the third or fourth one, but I think he gave a script for the third movie, and they just revised it. Now I will talk about something in the next episode, which kind of triggers me about what they edited. I don't even know if they did edit this, but what they added was kind of which we'll talk about that when we talk about Dream Warriors. But back to Freddy's Revenge. So let's just do a little bit of a summary of the movie. So Jesse and his family moved into Nancy's old house. And this girl who likes Jesse, they read the diary of Nancy, where she talks about Fred Krueger and all the stuff that he did in the last one. And the people say that the person that lived there before went crazy. So I guess if it's, you could argue it's canon, but even then, I don't know. There's stuff with the timeline too, but. So, the best scene in the movie, well, gradually, let's explain how Freddy and Jesse meet. Jesse sees Freddy in the boiler room, right? And then he sees him inside his house, and that's when he says, "You got the body, I got the brain," and Freddy pulls back the skin to show his brain inside of his head. And then he slowly tries to, take over Jesse's body, and it all, accumulates at the pool party, which is probably the most iconic scene. Jesse goes into his friend Grady's room, who he has a crush on, and that's when Freddy it's an amazing scene when Freddy comes out of his body, sheds the skin, the pain that Jesse's going through. So then Freddy kills Grady, chases Lisa, or the woman that had a crush on Jesse, and then goes out to the pool. This is, I think, the only time we see him mass murder in the real world and stuff, because they're we don't want to hurt you. They think he's a harmless, an animal or something. But then Freddy's like, "You were all my children." Now that's the most iconic line from the pool party. And then after the massacre at the pool party, Lisa chases him down to the old boiler room where he worked, and she just beats him with the power of love, basically. It says that she still loves Jesse and she knows he's in there, and Freddy's skin melts away and then Jesse's back. And that's basically the summary of the plot of this movie. Now you can see why that's a lot different than the first movie, because there's not any real dream deaths. Oh, there is. There's the coach. And I think his was a dream death, although it's kind of explaining Jesse killed him. So I don't know if there's actually any dream sequence deaths in the movie. So it's a big, tone change from the first film. Like I said, a lot darker. And that's probably why it gets looked over, because Dream Warriors was, the perfect sequel to the first film. And Dream Warriors was, hit the sweet spot for Freddy. Which we'll talk more about that when we cover Dream Warriors, which I'm excited about. And when I said earlier that I'm going to have a little bit of a rant about one thing that they added, at the end of the movie. That's not me saying I dislike the movie or I think the movie's bad, because it is like my favorite film in the series. Like, but I think the ending is kind of screwed up, and I'll explain that like next episode. But this film also ends with one of those last minute "oh, Freddy's alive again" endings, where Jesse and Lisa's friend are on the bus, and all of a sudden Freddy's like, razor gloves pops out of Lisa's friend's chest, and then the bus starts going off control again, because at the start of the movie it went off on this like off-road like voyage after these two like spire looking things, and it was like balancing on a bunch of like a really weird dream sequence. But it ends with that, which is like, oh, Freddy's alive. It's like in the first like 4 films, even I think 5 films, there's always this ending to make it ambiguous that like, oh, maybe he's dead, maybe he's not. So we will cover the best one, or really the first is still the best, but this is the best sequel. Next episode, which I'm excited about because it's the return of Nancy, which I'm going to be excited about, and then with new characters, which I really like that got introduced, and Freddy starts to do the one-liners. So the Freddy Krueger that you think of Freddy Krueger is starting to come around the third film. But until then, stay blessed, everybody. I love you guys. Take care. Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be reviewing A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 Dream Warriors. Now this is my personal favorite one. I will discuss the ending in a bit and talk about why I don't like it, and how the next film I don't like some of the parts of Part 4, which I will review tomorrow. But starting with the background of this movie. Now Wes Craven came back and gave them some ideas, which they took some of the ideas from his script that he wrote out for him, but they got 2 new directors to come in and revise it. And we'll discuss that more, like I said, when the ending happens, because I believe that I got more info about that. So let's talk about the plot. This movie also has a really awesome soundtrack. Dokken made this song, Dream Warriors, which is still really good today. And this movie is the sweet spot. You got the Freddy that's still scary, but also has comedy. Once you get to like Dream Master and the ones after that, he's basically became kind of a cartoon. He's still, I'd say Part 5 is when you hit kind of close to rock bottom, and Part 6 is rock bottom. But 4 still has more of like a comedic Freddy than a scary Freddy. He has some good one-liners, but taking Freddy, Fear Factor, the first 3 are the ones that are really for that, and Part 7. And some Freddy vs. Jason too, he's more balanced, but so we see that I think Wes Craven's original idea was for the kids, their deaths look like suicide, because Freddy would do it in the dream where it looked like a suicide, so nobody would get suspicion to a murder. So I think it was still that is still kept, because Patricia Arquette's character, Kristen, who is basically is a really awesome character. Unfortunately, she gets killed off in the first 15 minutes of the next movie, even though she's the protagonist of this movie. And so she has a dream of Freddy, and then she goes into her bathroom, and as soon as she like tries to turn on the faucet, it like gets her on her hands, and it cuts her wrists. So her mom thinks she tried to kill herself, and then basically she's sent to this mental asylum, or this mental institution. And we get some backstory on Freddy, like his mother, Amanda. We learn she's a nun. We find out more about her in the 5th film. I'll explain that when we get there. But we also get the return of Heather Langenkamp as Nancy, which, oh my gosh, she's so great in this movie. She is such a, like, I made the video why she's my favorite final girl, and I still stand by everything I said. She still is the best. It's like, and Heather played the role so good. She gives her charisma, and like I said, resourcefulness. That's why the way she dies in this movie is very dumb, and I'll explain that in a second. But we also get introduced to our other characters. There's this kid in a wheelchair who wants to be a D&D like wizard and have powers. And there's this Philip. He has a really cool design of his like death scene. But we'll talk about that in a second. And then Kincaid, who's really strong. I'm a big fan of. Unfortunately, him and the other character, Joey, one of the main Dream Warriors, gets killed off in the 3rd film. Or 4th film, the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes of the movie, which sucks. But we'll talk about that again more next episode. So basically, Nancy's brought in to kind of be like a mentor to these, especially Kristen. And Kristen has the power to bring people into her dreams. If she's scared, she can bring somebody into them. So then they get dream powers. So it's a very interesting act. Like, we have the full like a team against Freddy, and they all have their own powers that can like help fight back against him because they're not powerless anymore. And she brings Nancy into one of the dreams, and the Freddy's turned to a worm and is trying to eat Kristen, and Nancy's there, and he like you can see how angry he is seeing her again, and she stabs him with like the shard, and they wake back up. So now to the death scenes in the film. Philip, his tendons are pulled out of his body, and Freddy puppeteers him and walks him out through the hallway to the side of the institution, to the top part of the roof, and then uses his claw and like cuts it. And it's pretty because before Freddy turns this like puppet creature and stuff like that, like claymation, which is the coolest part. They made the claymation segment with him turned to a puppet. And the next death, which you probably know, is Jennifer's death. And it's his most iconic line in the whole franchise. You know, welcome to prime time. I don't like to cuss on the channel, so I'll just say female dog. But he picks her up and shoves her the like robot arms, goes to the TV because she wants to be be an actor. And she's watching some late night, and she gets picked up by Freddy and smashed into the television. And then one of the nurses comes in and sees her like, hanging from it, which is a pretty cool like Freddy's one liner here. That's kind of like this is one of the most iconic ones. He's really good in next episode or next movie. So eventually, also to talk about the Professor Neil. He's not a professor. I don't know why. He's like the doctor around there. He meets up with Nancy's dad, who makes a reprise. He was a really good part of the part one. I don't know why I didn't mention him. John Saxon's character, and I don't know why I didn't mention him, but he's really good. I hope I didn't like say the wrong actor, but I know his last name is Saxon. But basically, they're trying to find Freddy's bones in real life because Amanda says something about that. And while the Dream Warriors, Nancy, Kristen, and all the other ones, they try to like fight in the Dream World. So there's a scene where the really like the Harry Potter kid comes and like tries to like shoot Freddy with his lasers, and then Freddy strangles him. I don't believe in fairy tales. And then one of the other girls, it's a pretty disturbing scene. She's like an addict, and so Freddy gets like syringes for finger knives and then like injects her in her, and it's pretty scary for anybody who's been through like. I'm sure people. It's kind of. I'm sure it's pretty disturbing for people who've actually done that, like with those needles. So I understand why that'd be kind of a trigger warning, but yeah. And that's the thing. Freddy is scary in this film. Like I said, he is comedy. Now, time to get to the end of the movie. After killing them, it's Kincaid, Joey, who gets his voice now, because he was mute earlier, and can scream really loud and like damage Freddy that way. So it's now Kincaid, Nancy, Joey, and Kristen versus Freddy in the Dream World. They find his bones, and the bones kill Nancy's dad. But Gordon, it beats him up too, the doctor, Neil. But before Neil can like die, because he doesn't die in the movie. So Nancy and they beat Freddy. They think they've beat him. And he reveals his chest of souls, which is one of the things I think we learned in this movie, that he absorbs the souls of the people he kills. So, and basically, they think they've killed him in the dream worlds, but then Nancy sees her dad, which is the dumbest. This is what I was saying. Now, I don't think Nancy would not fall for her dad magically appearing in the dream world and stuff. That's the way they kill her off, because Freddy stabs her in the back with his gloves, and then she as Freddy's trying to attack Kristen now. After he's killed Nancy or almost killed her, Nancy grabs his arm and forcefully shoves it through his, stabs him with it or something. So, yeah, but I know in Wes Craven's original script apparently she knew that was not her dad, but she was trying to trick Freddy. So she grabs a sharp behind her back and stabs him in the back, and then he stabs her in the stomach. So they kill her at the same time. But that's so much more like Nancy. If she was going to die, then that would have been such a better ending. I know Wes regretted killing her off in his original script, but, New Line, you could have done something, man. Like you could have did something better for her death, or like I said in the episode where I called her my favorite final girl, I said that you could have kept her as a mentor role. But then again, Freddie would have wanted to kill her because he hated her the most of anybody. But yeah, so the movie ends, and after like Neil sprinkles holy water on the bones of Freddy and lays it to rest, and he like explodes, lights come out of his, and he like explodes and dies. Nancy passed away, unfortunately, and the Dream Warriors, live their lives peacefully, hopefully. But next episode we find out that they didn't get to live that very much longer. Because I think this movie chronologically in the timeline takes place in 87 or 86, and I think Dream Master takes place the next fall. So they get about what 6, 7, 8 months of life, and then Freddy absorbs their souls. So we'll talk about that next episode. I love you guys. And Dream Warriors, even though I said that the ending makes me mad, I still think this is my favorite movie. It's like the soundtrack, the characters, the aesthetic, the kills. It's such a great Elm Street movie. It's the quintessential movie if you want to show somebody Freddy. It's this sweet spot. He's not too goofy, but he's also not too scary. But he's perfect, the perfect Freddy. Robert Englund did amazing in this movie. But we'll see you guys in the next one. I love you guys. Stay blessed. Welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. So, before we get into this movie was directed by Rennie Harlan, and he is a pretty cool, come-up story, basically. Because, he was homeless. Basically homeless. Whenever he was pitching, he was asking New Line to make him asking for, a job to be the director of a film. And they gave this to him. He was a young filmmaker, so he came in every day, it's like a really good underdog story. He came in stinking because he was basically homeless, same clothes, but they finally gave him the job. And apparently the movie didn't even have a script, so he was forced to work with some really fat, he had to make these visuals and stuff. The movie's more focused on really flashy late 80s MTV style visuals and stuff like that, and there's not much of a script. I think that they directed the movie, they got the actors first, then gave the script at the end, wrote the story as it was being filmed. That's kind of a detriment to it. Because if you compare this to the past, well, the first and third one, I still think Dream Master is better than Freddy's Revenge. I think Freddy's Revenge is a good movie, but it just doesn't feel very Nightmare on Elm Street like. Like I said, it's a big tone shift. And so, with the fourth film, we follow Lisa Wilcox playing Alice, who's our new main characters. So, like I said in the last one, whenever we start this movie, our three Dream Warriors, the survivor ones, Kristen, Joey, and Kincaid, they're gonna die. And they die very early on into this movie. Kincaid's the first to go because the way they explain Freddy's resurrection after his death in Dream Warriors, granted, like I said yesterday, the Dream Warriors probably lived another 8 months after that movie. 6 months, because this movie takes place in 86. I've always thought of Dream Warriors taking place in the winter. So this starts when the school year starts. So this is 7, 8, 9 months. But after, I'm pretty sure. Basically, Freddy comes back because Kincaid's dog, Kincaid has a dream where he's at the same junkyard where Freddy's bones were laid to rest in the last movie, and he was doused in holy water. But basically, Kincaid's dog pees fire onto Freddy's grave, and then Freddy reappears. And fun fact, the dog's name's Jason, so I don't know if that's a reference to, Jason from Friday the 13th, because as you know, Freddy vs. Jason would still be another, 15 years after this movie. But anyways, he comes back, kills Kincaid, which I'm really sad about, because I liked Kincaid's character, I really did. He's probably, besides Kristen, my favorite character from Dream Warriors. And then he kills Joey. I believe he kills Joey next. The next night, not the next night, but soon after. And his death is more more focused on what Joey probably would die from, because as you know, I think in the third movie he was really horny. So he dies on his waterbed. He's all of a sudden under his sheets, this naked woman she's pressing there. She's hot, and he's trying to get to her, and Freddy pops out and delivers my favorite one-liner for this movie. It's so it fits it. It's a dumb one-liner, but how's this for a wet dream? when he gets out of the water, but he tells him that, and then drowns Joey in it. And then we get to our final of the Dream Warriors. Gotta bring up Kristen's new actor, Tuesday Night, does not do that good of a job compared to how Patricia Arquette did. Now, there's different stories about how Patricia Arquette, why she didn't come back to play Kristen, and the cast members say she wasn't paid what she deserved because she was a star in that last movie. She gave such a great energy to the character, and Tuesday Night does not give the energy. It kind of throws some people off. It kind of threw me off a lot as a kid, because you go from seeing Kristen as Patricia Arquette, who could have been a great new lead for this franchise after Nancy's passing. And the thing I really wish they would have done, instead of killing off Kincaid, Joey, and you could have killed maybe Joey or Kincaid off first and left the other two. In the end, let Kristen survive till the end of the movie. And then her and Alice fight Freddy, and then Freddy kills Kristen then. That way you get one more whole movie with her. So, once they're killed, we get to our new characters. Well, Kristen's killed. She's thrown into a furnace by Freddy. First, she wakes up in this dream, in this beach, and then Freddy, his glove is a fin, like a shark, and explodes a sandcastle. He comes out wearing shades. And, he then transports Kristen into his boiler room, burns her alive. She remember she had the power to bring people into her dream. She brings Alice, our new main character, in, and Freddy's like, "How sweet, fresh meat." So now we have a new cast. There's Alice, the athlete Dan, who she's got a crush on, and Rick, her brother, who's into martial arts and karate. And then her friend Sheila with asthma, and then her other friend Debbie who hates bugs. That'll come back and play in their death sequences. So Freddy first kills, I believe, Sheila. He sucks her face, dry air, and she suffocates. Yeah, the one with asthma in the classroom scene. And then he kills Rick. Freddy kills Rick in this invisible martial arts style fight, kung fu film kind of thing. And it's kind of cheesy. It's very cheesy, the invisible Freddy fighting. You could have made it so much better if you were going for that approach, I feel like. And then Debbie, Alice's last friend, the one with the, fear of, cockroaches, gets turned into a roach by Freddy. She's slowly, her arms get ripped off. She's, lifting, and Freddy's spotting for her. And he's a terrible spotter, so her arms bend back and break from the elbows. So then these, roach-like appendages come out, and then her face peels off. It's the only death scene that's very memorable from this movie. Probably the best one. Then they squished her in one of them roach motels. And now we set up the whole idea. So Alice becomes the Dream Master because she absorbs the power of her dead friends. So she has Kristen's ability to bring people into the dream. Rick's, kung fu. Debbie's athleticism. Sheila's intelligence. And then she goes to fight Freddy. Now this is the best part of the movie, because the way she kills him is kind of lame, but the way he dies by her using it to kill him is pretty cool. So after Dan's in has to go for surgery because they crashed the truck, because Freddy appeared in front of him in the real world, because they were in some loop where they kept going on the same street. Basically, she goes into the dream to save Dan, and then she goes against Freddy in this old cathedral, and then she has this piece of glass or a mirror. And she remembers this poem that she heard when she was a kid called The Dream Master. And she's like, evil will die. And then, Freddy sees himself in the glass reflection. And then he goes flying back into this, board, wall-looking thing. And his, hands, the hands of all the souls come, pulling out. They rip his sweater off. One comes out the back of his head, hold his head back, while others, come through his chest. You can see all the different, children that he's killed. And then it's kind of cool to think about that Nancy's friends' souls are freed, if you take in logic that all of them, that Freddy was absorbing souls in, which I think it's implying that the whole time he took souls. So his whole category of children he killed. Anyways, I like to hope Nancy didn't have to go through that. But anyways, they're all freed because they rip his jaw open, they tear his head apart, and all his souls fly out of Freddy's dead body. And that is how Freddy dies in this movie. Now, at the ending, I don't know if I mentioned last movie, there's always like this ending, the first like five Elm Street movies, where it's like, is he dead or not? Because last movie I didn't mention it, but there was a popsicle stick house that Kristen made, and Neil, the doctor there, had it on his nightstand, and all of a sudden a light went, like a little light came on in it, and that might be implying that Freddy's somehow still alive. But they never really fall through those type things. Now, the fourth film at the end, they're walking by one of those like fountains, and then Freddy's face, you can see his reflection in it. And have fun, guys. This is the last good Elm Street movie until New Nightmare. So for two movies, the next two, Dream Child and Freddy's Dead, it's not gonna be a fun experience. There's cheesy parts that I enjoy, but it's just to see the fall of from grace just 2 movies ago in Dream Warriors, and then in the original to see Freddy become a cartoon basically. So we will cover that next episode. I love you guys. Stay blessed. See you in the next one. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. So whatever good Freddy's, the fourth film did, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Dream Master, this movie kind of just goes down the hill. Like, this is the worst of Freddy's. Next movie is the worst of Freddy's comedy. The idea, I'll talk about some of the ideas in this movie that I like, but, you know, like I spoke about in the last movie, 4 was very comedic. It wasn't very scary, and that's kind of what made the set in stone the turning point. As 3 was, you know, the sweet spot. It was funny but still scary. And the first movie's more scary, second movie's scary. 4 kind of set it towards the horror comedy route. And now you've reached almost like Freddy's Dead's almost a parody movie at this point. The next movie for this one still has some serious like attributes to it, but it's still just, it's like I said, a big tone. It keeps, if you were going for the comedic route, this keeps on the same track before it was going. But I wish that Nightmare would have continued on, because now Robert Englund is so old. He's got arthritis. It's hard for him to play Freddy, which I understand. He shouldn't have to play that role where he's 79. Yeah, he's in his 70s, so he shouldn't have to play a physically draining role. And if you think in the 90s we could have had more Freddy movies if they just would have kept if they would have kept the formula for Dream Warriors, and even extend some of the comedy from Dream Master, the series could have lasted 8 films. We could have got so much more Freddy. Instead, imagine Freddy's Dead, more still serious. You know, you bring Nancy back, like I said. Well, she would have been dead from the third. You bring Alice back in Freddy's Dead. You could have included her story, which I think this movie does, sort of towards the end. But there's also there's a scene at the end where it shows maybe Freddy's still alive, so we don't know if Alice died or survived. Some people think she died, which would be sad to see. But in the next movie, if you're unaware, all the kids in Elm Street in the town of Springwood die. All the kids, just adults. So then they kind of go crazy. So, plot synopsis. The movie starts with Alice and Dan baby making, and they have sex, and Alice is pregnant, but Dan doesn't even find out, because when he's driving home, like, Freddy he falls asleep behind the wheel of his truck, and this time Freddy's resurrection is his baby self crawling into his old sweater from the abandoned, like, from where he died in the last movie. His little, like, baby self crawls into it and, like, grows into this disjointed version of Freddy. His arms are longer. Yeah. So Freddy kills Dan by taking control of his truck, and, you know, eventually turning him into this, like, demon-looking, like, motorcycle, like, man. Wires going into him. It's kind of it's the only really cool death from this film, because everything else is just, it's very cheesy. Like, for example, Super Freddy, which we'll bring up in a little bit. So, we're introduced to our new characters, and these are the most forgettable of the whole franchise. I only remember a couple of them. There's her one friend, Greta, who gets her face stuffed by Freddy, and then there's Mark, the comic book guy. So, I think the last one's like Ivana or something like that. I don't even know her name. She's probably the most forgettable of the characters in this movie. So, basically, we'll talk about the deaths now. Greta is as like anorexic. She wants to be a model, so she's like made herself like skinny, and like she won't eat and stuff. She's very skinny, and her dream is she's putting this like thing, this chair that locks her in, and Freddy, dressed like a waiter, very cheap, like I said, very goofy, flips up the trays like bon appetit and stuffs her mouth till she like chokes to death on the food. That's the one. That death is kind of cool, but yeah, not very. Like it's decent. It's not like Dan said that was the best one of the film. Next is Mark's. He's killed by Freddy in comic book style. Freddy becomes this like comic book villain, black and white sweater, and they fight in the comic book world until Freddy uses his claws and shreds him, and he like gets shredded up like paper. So the whole plot is that Alice's unborn son. So Freddy's come back to the real world. What he's doing is since the baby dreams infinitely or like endlessly until it's born, while it's in the womb, he's like, while Alice is awake, he can like go into people's dreams or something when they're asleep from the baby. It's kind of a complicated. We find out more about Freddy's backstory too. That his mother was locked. I think I already brought up how she was a nun, but she got locked up in this movie reveals she was locked in over a weekend with the son of 100 maniacs. I think it was, what was it, 100 maniacs, and she was assaulted by all of them, and she got pregnant with Freddy through that. So yeah, and then she needs her body to be laid to rest by somebody putting a hand on her shoulder, and that can like bring her into the dream world where she can kill Freddy by sucking him back into her womb. It's a very complicated plot. Anyways, after all, like Mark and Greta are dead, Alice's friend finds Amanda's body, lays her to rest, and now Alice is facing Freddy in the dream. But she was the whole time, Alice was seeing visions of her unborn son, but he was like a kid version of him because Freddy was projecting, and Freddy's feeding the souls of the people he kills to the unborn baby, so it comes out like kind of like him and stuff. So, anyways, after the face-off, Amanda sucks Freddy back into her womb, and he's trying to get out, and the door shuts on him. You think that's a happy ending, because at the end we see that that Alice is giving birth to her son, and her dad, and her friend, and the baby are at the park. But as it zooms out, you can see the Jump Rope Girls, who I don't know why I haven't brought them up. You know the Freddy song, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. They're singing the song. They're doing like they're jumping rope, so it kind of shows that maybe Freddy's alive. Hints at that. So then we don't ever hear from Alice again. I wish we could have got a definitive answer to her story. So my headcanon is we've lost enough protagonists. We've lost Kristen, Nancy. We don't need to lose another one. So I want to hope she survived. And you could say, and maybe the reason why she doesn't appear in Freddy's Dead is she just wanted to leave Springwood, because I think I would too. After you've survived some dream demon for the past 3 years, 2 years. So next episode we'll be talking about the worst, or the second worst. I still would watch it over the remake. Some people like the remake, but I don't. Now, I won't be covering the remake until later in the summer when I cover, you'll find out soon, that other series. So, thank you guys for watching. Stay blessed. I love you guys. Take care. Everybody, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be reviewing Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. The actual worst of the original 6. No doubt. Dream Child was weird. It was very unfunny in some parts, but like there was still elements of the story that I found enjoyable. And I'll bring up some I enjoy about some of the part of this story. But the movie just flies off the end into comedy. It's no longer a horror comedy. It's just no one is scared of Freddy in this movie. He's so goofy. Like, there's the hearing aid kill that was kind of the nails in the chalkboard. That one was kind of cool, but I'll explain the one that ruins it. So, it's very dumb. So I will explain that in a second. So, the movie doesn't also explain what happened to Alice. I brought that up at the end of Dream Child. I'd like to think she just moved out of Springwood because, she didn't want to raise her kid there because, a dream demon. So, but apparently every kid in Elm Street has died, so now it's just the adults and they've kind of went crazy. So, our movie starts with this guy, John, who thinks he's Freddy's son. Spoiler alert, he turns out not to be, and he gets killed by Freddy near the end of the movie. But he travels and he meets the other three, or like other four. There's Maggie, who we find out later. I guess I'll explain that in a minute. But then there's this other girl, I don't even know her name. Tracy, I think. And then Spencer, this video game, and then Carlos, this guy with hearing problems. And they travel to Springwood because John thought he was from there, like the last surviving teen. And but the first one to die is Carlos. He gets a Q-tip shoved in his head. And then he gets like a new hearing aid that like it's sensitive. And then Freddy runs his claws across the chalkboard till Carlos's head explodes. So it's like that's the only cool visual I feel like. Then you got Spencer's death, which is very outdated, I might add. I mean, at the time, I'm sure for the kids, because Freddy at this point became an icon. He wasn't really a scary character. There's an NES reference. So if you're unaware, Spencer is this. He uses drugs, so Freddy's like, let's trip out, and he like makes him spawn into the television and makes him like be in a video game world basically, where Freddy controls him, makes him jump and stuff, and what is it? And then he says like, then when they try to disconnect the controller, the kids do. He's like, you forgot the power glove, which is a reference to that old Nintendo accessory from I think 1990. So Freddy starts playing with that, and it's just stuff like that really outdates the movie. Like if you compare it to the first, which is timeless. I know there's the Evil Dead and that one shot where Nancy's watching on TV, but everything else about it is timeless, basically. The technology, of course, but it doesn't really like make modern references and stuff. That's just, which I mean, it's not even the worst part. So, anyways, Spencer he passes away because he dies because Freddy's, making him jump until he falls down like a hole in the stairs and dies. Just breaks his neck or something. It's weird. It is. And then we find out that, spoiler alert, John, this guy that thought he was Freddy's child, turns out Freddy was using him to get to Maggie, his real daughter, the daughter that he had when he was, before she got taken away. So then he cuts John's rope. Let's also talk about some other goofy stuff. Freddy flies in a broom at the start of the movie, like the Wicked Witch of the West, and then now he's in the air holding on to John's parachute, and he starts cutting the ropes to it, and he just plummets, and then like a Looney Tunes character, Freddy backs up, pushes this nail board behind him, or board of spikes, looks tired, and then John falls in and dies. So we find out that yes, Maggie we get flashbacks of Freddy. I kind of like the Freddy flashbacks, I think it's plausible he could have had a daughter. I mean, maybe not having a wife and stuff, but I like the idea of him having a child and the child beating him. But could you imagine if they made this better? Say you took it more serious. You still could have had the daughter aspect, but you could have had Nancy back if you wouldn't have killed her off in the third film. You could have had a true finale. It's kind of like how I wish what they would have done with Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, because apparently before they made Creighton Duke, if they would have had the rights to the Tommy Jarvis character, they were going to have him come back and be the exposition. Would have been such a great finale. If you would have killed, that would have been the final Friday, and then Tommy Jarvis helped kill Jason, that would have been such a better... I like Creighton Duke as a character, sort of, but not really, but Tommy Jarvis would have been a whole lot better. So, that's Friday the 13th. More on that later. But we're back to Nightmare on Elm Street. So Maggie brings him into the real world, and we find out, we get lore that when Freddy was being burned by the parents, before he died, these three dream demons were like, you can live forever. And and Freddy's like, I want it all, and they fly into him, and he becomes Freddy Krueger, the burnt version, the dream demon. And that's his origin story, basically. It's kind of cheesy. Anyways, Freddy is killed, so Maggie stabs him with the finger knives, and it sticks a pipe bomb at him, gives him a kiss, and Happy Father's Day, and Freddy gives the last ever one-liner in the original 6, kids, and blows up. This movie derails everything Freddy was. Like, Dream Child was going into some very weird and like this basically horror comedy. But, ugh. Freddy's Dead is basically the thing that killed Freddy off, basically. This also killed the franchise off. Well, it was kind of obviously Freddy's Dead. But, like I said a couple videos ago, I said if you would have kept the same pace as Dream Warriors, maybe even Dream Master, this series could have went on so much longer in the 90s. You could have had Robert Englund in more films. Now, thankfully, this is all kind of doom and gloomy right now because this movie sucks and it's trash. It is the worst of the franchise. No, the remake's worse, but it's one of the worst of the franchise. But next episode, we'll be covering Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which I really like. It's the first really good Freddy movie since the fourth one, and the first really great Freddy movie since the third one. So I think it's my top third movie in the franchise. So we'll discuss that next episode. I'm excited to get Nancy back, and it's got a very interesting meta type horror movie. It's like a precursor to Scream. So be excited for that. I love you guys. Stay blessed. Take care.